welcome to Sports Zone here on ShawTV. I'm your host, Tali Campbell. On today's show, we speak to John Nicholson, the general manager of Junior A Timbermen, to see how this season's going to be, hopefully much better than last season. We also attended the Nanaimo Buccaneers banquet, and we speak to Brad Knight, the head coach. But first, we speak to Dan Marshall, the voice of the Nanaimo Clippers. I'm here with Dan Marsh, the voice of the Nanaimo Clippers. Now, Dan, the Clippers, less than 24 hours that we're speaking right now, the Clippers lost to Port Alberni Valley Bulldogs. They're up 2 games. First 2 games they won here in Nanaimo, lost the next 2 in Alberni Valley, came back here on Wednesday night, and they lost Game 5. Kind of, relived that, sad moment, really.
Well, what a shocking way to go, right? You're up 2-0, and at that point you're thinking about, can we sweep? And it turns out that it's a Game 5. 4 one-goal games in the series. It was that close. The home team won every game until game number 5, when the Bulldogs had a sensational third-period push to win the game and the series. So there's a lot of frustration, so many positives in that series for the Clippers, but right now it's all a negative. When you lose, you can't look at any of those positives until I think the series is a bit more in the rear view, and then maybe you can be proud of a lot of the things that you did do, especially in the first 2 games when the Clippers were so good at home. Trevor Fitzgerald with that overtime winner, and the 5-on-5 play was solid. The goaltending of Jason Argue was spectacular. Argue, I think, solidified himself as the #1 goalie now heading into the WCC with the way that he played, so there's some positives. But anytime you lose, you just look at all those little things, those little inches, those little moments, and that makes the difference.
Absolutely, and 3 weeks ago in the Sports Zone, the inaugural Sports Zone, we talked about the traditional playoff beers. And Dan said he's not going to do it because the hope the Clippers are going to run, go far. Obviously, didn't have to grow out very much.
I went the opposite way, and that conversation got me thinking about what I should do. So at the time, I was all goateed up, and I thought I might keep that going for the postseason. And it was the night before the playoffs. I said, no, I'm going to shave everything, clean shaven, right down, look, about 10 years younger maybe. And sure enough, I thought after the first 2 games, this was the right decision. So I kept that going. Instead of keeping the goatee and going beard, I went the exact opposite. Didn't work this time though.
Unfortunately not, but looking at the Game 5 situation, they had a 5-on-3 for 2 minutes, but a power play for 4 minutes. Only 3 shots were registered in those 4 minutes. That's got to be, possibly the turning point for the Alberni Valley Bulldogs, killing off that 4 minutes and really giving them the energy. What do you think?
I really do think that was the turning point in the hockey game, and I think you just have to watch what Mike Vandekamp did. He called his timeout right there. His team up 1-0 late in the second period, a full 2-minute 5-on-3. If you make it 2-0, you probably win Game 5. It's that big a moment. And the disappointment was not just that the Clippers didn't score, it was they didn't really threaten. The Bulldogs kept them at base so very well. Even down 5-on-3, the Bulldogs were able to hem the Clippers back in their own zone a couple of times, get some big clearances. So that, to me, started the Bulldog momentum. You can talk about the first goal, you can talk about the game-winning goal, and you can talk about the penalty at the end that put Nanaimo into a 5-on-5 when they were trying to go 6-on-5. But to me, it was that 2-minute stretch where the Clippers couldn't get going and they looked nervous, I think, for the first time in the game. And when you look nervous, your opponent senses that, and I think that's what really lifted up the Bulldogs.
Absolutely, and talking about the last minute to play, at least 1,100 fans on the edge of their seats, including the 450 Alberni Valley fans. And Mike gets a penalty, a bench minor for, a lot of confusion, really, that what he said on your show following the game, what fans are saying, what the ref's saying. Either way, a bench minor with a minute to go is not something you want. I know you talked to Mike. What is he saying?
Well, the difficulty came down to communication. That was the word that kept coming up. And those 450 some odd Bulldog fans that were in the building were loud. The music was loud at that time. Everybody was, as you say, on the edge of their seat. And I think what had happened is the players involved, whether it was Jason Argue asking, am I in or am I out, going to the bench, staying in the net, Mike Vandekamp finding out from the officials, why did you not let that face-off happen in the attacking zone? The officials saying, Mike, this is what we want you to do in terms of getting the play going. And it was so loud in the building, I think what happened is everybody was not on the same page. The official, the goalie, the coach, even the players that had gone back and forth between the benches several times. And it got to the point where it was palpable, the tension that was building up between the officiating crew and the Nanaimo Clipper bench. And I talked to the commissioner of the BC Hockey League about it, and I think everybody agrees when you stand back and look at it, that if everyone could have communicated a little quicker, a little better, there's no penalty, and the Clippers do get their 6-on-5 out of it. But in that situation with so much intensity, tension, and noise, the communication broke down a little bit, and that moment really broke down that game for the Clippers. I don't think that was the turning point, but I think that was an opportunity for a legitimate comeback push, and it did fall short with 1 minute and 4 seconds left on that penalty.
And we're going to speak of Western Canada Cup in just one moment, but first, Port Alberta had about 450 fans in Frank Crane Arena on Wednesday night. Is that normal for an away team to bring that many fans down?
No, it's special. It's really special, and it made the Clipper fans louder. It made the building feel better. Obviously, it pumped up the Bulldogs. I talked about that 5-on-3. I talked about that penalty the Clippers took at the end. The Bulldog fan noise was a factor, I think, in both of those incidents. You might think, oh, maybe 100 fans, a big crowd. You'd say, oh, maybe 200 fans. That would be a massive crowd. But we do believe it was in the neighborhood of about 450. 2 buses coming down. The people that came down on their own. Just a tremendous show of support. And you have to tip your hat to the Bulldog fans. They were a factor. The so-called sixth man, if you will. Great job by everybody that got dressed up, that made a lot of noise. It was really great. I was looking at them. They were to my left the entire night. And so many times at points in the game, I felt, well, I have to make the comment here. Those are the Bulldog fans that you're hearing down to the left of me, because they were so good.
Yes, absolutely. Speaking of Western Canada Cup, of course, Nanaimo's run ends in the BCHL, the Western Canada Cup, April 26th here in Nanaimo. I'm sure you spoke to some of the players after the game or today. What's their kind of sense? Are they kind of, sad they lost, but at the same time looking forward to the Western Canada Cup? Or is there an advantage to this? They get more practice time, or is it a disadvantage that all the teams who are coming in for Western Canada Cup just won their league championships?
Well, I'll tell you, there's a few things about that. Number one is it can be an advantage, this time off, this practice time, this time to heal injuries, to get everybody back. Aaron Hadley would not have played probably even in the next round of playoffs. Now he's available for the Western Canada Cup, a guy that's got a whole ton of experience here. The players aren't looking forward to that Western Canada Cup, not today, not tomorrow. That's going to take some time. I think they're going to take some time away. They need a mental and physical break. But as they come back, I think what you're going to see is that excitement's going to start to build and build and build to a fever pitch. But it's all about right now looking at all the little things that didn't happen for you. There's frustration, there's sadness, and you don't look ahead yet. You're still looking back. Then you'll try and live in the moment, then look ahead.
And thank you, Dan, of course. Thank you for everything, doing the interviews. Dan Marshall, of course, the Western Canada Cup, you'll play playing on 106.9 The Wolf. Same time the Nanaimo Junior A Timbermen Open this season. I spoke to General Manager John Nicholson. I'm joined with John Nicholson, General Manager of Junior A Timbermen. Hello, John. How are you doing?
Not too bad. How about yourself?
Good, thanks. So talk about, a lot of changes of the offseason for the Nanaimo Junior A Timbermen. Brand new coaches, Brad Dugan. What are you expecting to bring to the table this year?
Well, we're hoping to be obviously a much more competitive team this year. We're bringing in some new faces, obviously, new face behind the bench, and new assistant coach as well, and Ken Morrison. And we're hoping to get right back into the thick of it and right back into the playoff race. So
awesome. And speaking about signings, you'd recently not too long ago. Tell us about those two.
Yeah. So we picked up Brett Howries and Owen Barker from the Armstrong Shamrocks of the Thompson Okanagan League. Howries was the MVP of the league last year. He's a really quick goal scorer, right-hander. So he's going to add some depth to our right-hand side. And then we got Owen Barker. And Owen Barker's a really hard worker. He's a good little playmaker. He's a left-hander. And we think he's really going to energize some of the guys on our team with his work ethic. So.
And last year there were some trades made to different teams, but some of those guys are returning. Who's returning to our team?
Yeah, so we've got back Peter Dubinsky, who's arguably probably the best goalie in the league. As well, we get Mitch Parker and Corey Shires, who are great offensive players. They're back in the fold again this year.
So now, of course, players do move up, like Paul Breber, Adam Bacular-Evans, Bruno Best. What are those players going to be moving up to this team? Of course, it's always changed, but what kind of impact is that going to do to the Nanaimo Junior A Timbermen?
Well, obviously, we have some holes to fill, and we'll be bringing in some guys. We should have probably, I would guess, anywhere between 6 to 10 new faces on the roster this year. And, change is sometimes a good thing, especially when you have a year like we did last year when we only had 3 wins. So you need some more players in there.
Absolutely, and the training camp's coming up April 4th? April 6th, sorry. In terms of attendance, how many people are going to attend that one?
We're hoping to have a large camp. Hoping to have a lot of competitions for spots, obviously, on the front end, back end, and even in goal. We're bringing in a lot of guys, and hopefully it's going to make the guys that were here last year work harder, and nobody's got an assured spot. So.
And speaking about home opener, our home opener is going to be in Parksville. Why is that?
Yeah, well, they've got the big hockey tournament obviously this year, so dry floor was a bit of an issue, so we moved up island about 20 minutes to Parksville, and they took us in with open arms sort of thing. We got a lot of guys from around the island, so it makes sense that, I mean, we take it to Parksville and let them have a chance to enjoy some junior A lacrosse.
So speaking about ice, how it's staying in a little longer because of the Western Canada Cup, is that going to affect practice at all?
No, we're going to be in the Nick for the first month for training camp and whatnot, so no, we'll be fine for first month.
And lastly, I know it's a little early to talk about what kind of team should our fans expect this year. Is it going to be much of the same as last year? Hopefully not. Or is it going to be faster? What are you kind of expecting?
Well, I think with the coaching staff we have with Brad and Kenny, what they're going to do is instill a better work ethic into the guys. You can already see that. They've been out, some of the local guys have been out conditioning with Brad and that, and the work ethic he's instilling right now, it's really going to pay off in the end. I think we're going to have a hard-working bunch, and I think we're going to be right in the thick of it for a playoff spot. So
great, thank you, John.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you, John. The Nanaimo Junior A Tournament season is right around the corner. We speak to Earl Nicholson next week on the Sports Zone to talk about the Senior A Tournament. But for now, we head over to the Nanaimo Buccaneers Awards Banquet, where they recently handed out their awards.